think if you think of the tradition of where the CRM platforms were born from, in many cases, it was to replace the Rolodex environment that you would have. So traveling reps with their own Rolodex, paper records of their contact details, and just such an immense amount of IP and risk that sat with that knowledge sitting in the back seat, if you like, of that rep's truck. So I think the original impetus behind CRM systems was largely around risk mitigation of single points of people leaving with all of those contacts in their back pocket.
Yeah, I would say back in the day when CRM was just starting, it was pretty normal to have a pretty company-centric view of data and process. So, we all had ERP solutions, but that was very much everything that happens from the front of the office building to, all the operations that we have internally. So it was very much every record was based around those internal operations. So CRM kind of came from that need to have a more customer-centric view or a customer-based view of our operations. And so, yeah, it brought in the Rolodex view of the customer, and then it started to backfill in some of the other processes or interactions that we had with customers. But it was very much moving from business-centric to trying to be more customer-centric and trying to think about the actual experiences that customers might have with us, and therefore how we should respond or engage in those.
This is interesting because myself, I had a personal epiphany on this perhaps only a couple of months ago when I was about to attend a new prospect meeting. And in the insights that were being shown to me in my phone using my Outlook app, it was prompting me to know about any previous interactions that prospect had had with our company. I actually had a copy of the latest proposal that we'd sent to that customer that somebody else in our organisation had sent. That, essentially, I guess the information was surfaced for me. I didn't go looking for it. It's not like I thought I should go into my CRM now and I should go and do some digging and hope that the people have tracked what they should have tracked. The thing is, this tool is able to surface the data that I need to see based on my security privileges. It won't circumvent that. But importantly, it hasn't required human beings to take intentional action to get that information into a sensible format so that I can then go and find it in that sensible format. And I think fundamentally, this is one of the biggest transitions of the tool from when I started, this practice some 15 odd years ago to where it is today. We no longer need to have a stick to drive people to do things in a certain way every single time to be able to derive meaningful and immediate value from the system. And that to me is an absolute game changer. To turn up at this meeting 2 minutes before it started, doing a quick scan, refreshing myself with regards to who the key interactions are that they're dealing with, who are the people, what's the knowledge I need for that meeting without looking for it. As I say, as an executive who's always overprescribed, that was a game changer. What are your thoughts, Jonathan?
Yeah, very much agree. And I think that's emblematic in the fact that our practice is now named Customer Engagement and Collaboration. And what Kristy is talking about is when that flows down to the technology, that kind of reflects the fact that we are no longer looking at just a CRM of structured data, but we've got a more of a what might be called a headless CRM approach today, where you don't have to try to force people to go into the CRM system. The technology recognizes that customer relationships are managed through different types of data. So one being conversational data, another being document data, files, and the third being those structured customer records. So conversations, documents, structured data. So that means that at the fundamental levels, what we have to design for is we have to have security thinking across all that data. What conversations are people having in email and Teams with customers or with each other about customers? What customer-related information is contained in documents and what's in structured data, and all that should come together so that with the right information strategy and security design in place, we get pushed up to us wherever we are working insights about the customer so that we can better enable that interaction with the customer, whether it's us having it or whether it's, say, through marketing campaigns that we're sending out, or whether we're enabling say a front office part of a business in a wholesale or retailer, whatever it might be. It's bringing together those different types of data that form across customer engagement and collaboration technologies, and making sure they're part of a picture that is just bubbled up to people a little bit more naturally, even if they're not tending to want to go into the structured CRM to update their records.
I think from my perspective, given that I sit probably in one of those roles today in the lens of my position here at Fusion 5, what it helps me to do is to ensure that the focus is given to the right place at the right time. So, we've all had the situation where we're focusing on, for example, a particular opportunity. It's all in on this, and we're spending a fortune. And I guess at some point we have to self-assess and go, is this the right thing to do? Is it still, I guess, beneficial to us as an organisation to continue to sink some more investment into landing this deal, as an example? These tools are able to help me very quickly understand whether my gut is right or wrong. I'd suggest it's really about validation. So suddenly I can see that the total earning potential for a customer similar to this might equal a certain amount of money, and maybe the value proposition is starting to not really make sense. So, perhaps we have to tactically try and do some different things to close the deal fast. Maybe we need to break the deal up differently and do some smaller tactical phases to extract the full life cycle of value from that customer, but in a different way based on what their peers are doing, for example. And so, I think really as an executive, it's about making sure that you're putting the right investment in the right areas of your business. And then equally, you're seeing those businesses that are starting to come off pace nice and early, as opposed to waiting until P&L results come through and are giving you the picture that you kind of always knew you were going to see. So, really, I think it's about the immediacy and the relevance of the insights that I'm getting. Again, similar to attending that meeting, I don't need to go searching for this. It's things that are put right under my nose by the very smart intelligence that's being wrapped into the tools. And again, that is just such a gift in terms of not only efficiency, but also making sure that nothing drops through the sieve, if you will, that shouldn't. It really does catch those things that I need to pay attention to. Absolutely. One of the key ones might be in the insights area, where it'll give me a sentiment metric. So clearly the system is able to read the various communications that are happening between our organisation and that record. And it's able to give me some insights in terms of whether our relationship is trending up or down from a pure, I guess, customer satisfaction kind of area, but also it's around how liked are we by this organisation based on the most, I guess, the things that you'd never notice, such as a small change in their language style. Maybe it's down to their responsiveness of some of the offers that we're sending out. Perhaps they're starting to drop away. Maybe they're opening our offers, but not committing to them, not taking it through to that next action of committing to a purchase where they used to in the past. So a lot of these little things that you wouldn't think are actually necessarily triggers are being captured by the system in the background, and the AI that's infused to it inside these tools now can actually say to me, hey, I think you've got a problem here, well before I even know that I've got a problem, because they haven't bought as much in that category this year, for example, compared to last year. That might be something we call a lagging indicator, because we've missed the opportunity already. Maybe I'm in agri-services and I'm selling the business of perhaps some nutritional needs for a herd of dairy cows. It happens once a year. A lagging indicator might be that I just didn't get that category worth of sale this year from that large buyer, but a leading indicator could be that they're starting to not click on some of the discount offers that I'm trying to entice them with to make sure that I get that large spend each year, for example.
Where did AI all start? Yeah. and where's it been sitting with CRM? Well, I guess when we think of CRM, we have still traditionally been thinking of forms on your screen that sit on top of structured data. And so we enter data through forms, but we also consume it through forms. And so all our engagement with customers had been based on the structured data, and all our interaction with data was primarily through looking at forms over data. And that's been the case for 40 to 50 years of computing, both in CRM and in any other systems. And so what we're seeing with AI, well, first off, it started at those pure sort of more mathematical statistics, like based on the number of conversations or the number of different types of records or the trending of amounts, then maybe we can extrapolate something future about that. So we can extrapolate that the engagement is going down or up. But that's all, it's good statistical analysis. And the AI part is essentially making it much easier to access that. It does it automatically through artificial intelligence technology. The real revolution quite recently, or more recently, has been that that applies also to large bodies of text. So you can use AI to get meaning out of a large body of text, like a summary. So you can understand what this large piece of text was actually saying, and then you can also apply that in a predictive manner. So that's what GPT technology does. It applies predictive analytics to large bodies of text, so that when you ask it, well, tell me something about this, it can write out, well, these are the words that would most likely come next. So that predictive nature also applies across, say, text that might be code, which means that when we get into low code solutions or into programmatic stuff like CRM platforms, we can use that predictive kind of nature of AI to help us do what we want to next. So what that means is that while AI has been bubbling along inside Dynamics, with Microsoft's massive investment in OpenAI, now sitting inside Azure OpenAI, it means that these copilots can sit inside applications like Dynamics 365, so in customer service and sales, and they can help carry out operations that are common enough to have an element of predictability about it. So what I mean by that is it can look across a large body of our internal product documentation. Let's say we sell machines that say, automatically process meat or things like that. We might have some complex documentation about that. Large language models like GPT can look across that and summarize data. And when we're having conversations about that in a customer service context, the customer service copilot can figure out this conversation looks like a summary of that product documentation. The product on the customer record definitely matches that product documentation. So it can inject both summary data from product documentation into the customer service conversation, but it can also point people at the right resources. So it uses that predictive ability to just speed up the process. Instead of a person having to go off and search for the right answers and find them and then provide the documentation through, it can just suck out effort and time from that kind of process. So that's a real revolution that we're seeing, is just so much ability to increase productivity by removing time and cost from processes, because we can now have AI across large amounts of unstructured data.
I think one of the key things that is unique and comforting about this evolution of the tech as well, and it's alluded to within its name, Copilot, is in any of these situations where the tech, if you like, is finding the answer versus the human, the original data source is kept, it's preserved, and it's allowed for verification by the intelligent human you've hired. So in essence, it is designed to be the co-pilot to an intelligent individual. It enables them to genuinely achieve a lot more with their day, and they're still in full control by being able to validate that. And I mean, who knows what the future will bring? Perhaps we'll see less and less of that. But for right now, I know from my perspective, that gives me an immense degree of comfort that we're able to use these tools to be better at what we do versus having it go rogue, if you like, and us not understanding or trusting the technology. And given the newness of this in its current construct, as I say, I think that takes away a lot of the fear that you might see in the market around adopting this kind of tech.
Yeah, that's right. There are so many good examples of that improving or augmenting humans' productivity in the Copilot products that we're seeing coming out. So Copilot for Excel, for example, you can say what you want your formula to do, or you can give it examples of the data you're working with and the after result that you want for that, and it will give you and it will say, okay, well, I think this is what you're trying to achieve. Here's a formula that you can use to do it. So it can remove some of that time from having to try and figure it all out yourself, but you still need to be able to then validate that it's looking good and it's doing what you want. And it's the same with, say, Copilot for Power Apps, so low-code app creation or configuration of the CRM technology, is that the Copilot will help speed up those things that you're trying to do, but it does rely on you having the, I guess, the direction to do it, wanting to do it, and validating that it's taking you where you want to go. So it's going to take out, if we look at, say, some of what they're doing with Copilot for this low-code development, it might be increasing people's productivity by about 40% in terms of ultimate outputs, but it's still very much about what the person is creating or doing and trying to achieve. No,
but do get fearful of, I guess, the KPIs you might be measured against. Your throughput might just increase with some of these tools, and rightly so.
Yeah, and it's funny that people say you won't be replaced by an AI, but you may be replaced by someone who is putting the effort into getting across how they can use AI to do the job. So it's kind of important as a learning thing that organizations start to tackle it and plan for it.
That's a good question, and it's something that we take immensely seriously. Of course, we're fortunate enough to be part of Microsoft's inner circle for business applications, which means that we're afforded the opportunity to meet with some of the more senior executives regularly, culminating in a summit once a year where we learn a lot of our key insights as a business, and we've just come off the back of that. Clearly, the message was very clear, and that was that we need to educate ourselves and our customers on this groundbreaking technology, and if we don't do it now, we're falling behind already. And we've taken that message very seriously. So we've set out a task force, if you like, we're calling it an education group within Fusion 5, where we're enabling a large subset of our own staff to agree on a baseline set of knowledge so that everybody's enabled with a common set of understanding of what it is we're talking about, even, because that's kind of step one. And then we're breaking into practical working groups where we can, I guess, reinvent our own organisation using this incredibly transformative technology, so that when our customers are advising when our staffs are advising our customers on how to use this tech, they've got some excellent first-hand examples where they've had the opportunity to get their hands dirty. Look, this is new for everybody. And so ultimately we need to understand, how do we experiment safely, and of course doing it for ourselves is one of the first ways you do that, but B, how do we also ensure that we get the help we need at the right time? And that's the thing we do via our inner circle connections, via making sure we get the technical support from Microsoft to back us up. So essentially what we're doing, as I say, common understanding across a lot of our organisation. We were blown away by just how many people were interested in this topic. Then particular breakout groups where they can practice and learn, and then also making sure that we're educating our customers along the way. I'll just really quickly give the one example. I know Jonathan will have a lot more. The best one I've seen yet is within the university sector. We're working with an institution at the minute. We were talking about a Power Virtual Agent for that organisation some time ago, and Power Virtual Agent is the brand given to Microsoft's chatbot, if you will. Now, previously, the old school way was that you needed to have a conversation designer, and essentially you do a series of workshops and you think about what are the types of topics that might be asked, what are the categories of those topics, what are the answers we'd want to surface, and you kind of really needed to feed this bot with a lot of its answers. I was just, again, it was one of those moments where I really do appreciate how fast this tech is moving, when one of our very talented consultants came and had a chat to me in the tea room and said, Kristy, we've just had a new release and I've been able to feed 200,000 chat scripts into the tool, and automatically within a few minutes, the topics and categories were already answered for us. We didn't need to create those. It looked at the chat. It could already determine where are the questions being asked, how do I categorize them, and I validated that, and there was a few minutes worth of work versus something that would have been literally weeks. And I guess taking it the next step, if, for example, in that institution, as we turn this tool on, let's say that there is an outage that's occurred. It was maybe quite sudden. I don't know, maybe there's been a natural disaster and we're starting to get a lot of questions. Perhaps that means an exam can't be held. Maybe it's due the next day and it's a big amount of attendees. The bot will automatically create a new event when it starts to see a trend of new questions coming in that follow a common category. And so the fact is that previously our bots were dumb. They had to be fed. I myself have been so frustrated using bots online, whereas these are now incredible. It's not very, onerous to get them started, and they self-learn very quickly. And so my advice to businesses is to just honestly look at the Power Virtual Agent technology, consider whether you want to provide some simple answers 2-4x7, and I think that's an excellent place to start. But over to you, Jonathan, for other insights or thoughts.
Thanks, Kristy. Yeah, I think that that conversational AI is a huge thing, and like you say, it's been in the past. It's been a little bit more manual to try to create all the curated conversations. Now we still have that ability, but we can also use Copilot to create the bulk of curated conversations for certain topics, and then just check them, validate, and tidy up anything that we want. So that takes a lot of effort out of creating this conversational way that people can interact with us as an organization, whether that be our external customers or our internal staff. And if you recall back to the start of the conversation, we were talking about that move away from forms over data to an easier way in which people can interact with compute, with data, which is conversation. And so that just makes it easier to get started. What is really interesting with Copilot, though, is that it's not just Copilot baked into Dynamics or into Microsoft 365 products, but there is an entire Copilot stack that Microsoft is rolling out with the vision that you will be able to add this functionality to any of your software. So if you have an ERP that's quite old, but you can have an API sitting in front of it, you can actually start to add AI automation to this software platform quite easily. And so if you have an HR system or various other systems, that will be where Microsoft sees a lot of the value being created, is that you can start to stand up Copilot technology of your own to try and remove a lot of wasted time and cost from processes. Interesting example that we've just been playing with internally, actually, one of our team has been passing some of this technology across our internal policy documentation. So a bunch of PDFs about all the different employee policies that we might have, HR policies, but also even branching out to, say, New Zealand law that might sit internally. So whereas in the past you might have to go off and search for various answers about, let's say that you want to change your KiwiSaver contribution amount, or perhaps you want to take maternity leave or something like that, you have to go off and find the answers. With this now, that you can simply point the Copilot technology at your policy documentation, and a person can easily start to get answers out of that referenced with links to the documents. So you can still go and validate that. Not only that, but then we started testing it out. Can you give me those answers in Maori or in Tagalog, Filipino? And then we validated that the translations we were getting automatically from this were accurate, and they very much were. So none of that was curated conversation. You can still design your own conversation flows, but in the stack that we have for developing Copilots, you can do all the sorts of stuff around AI safety, filtering what sort of conversations it should and shouldn't cover. But you get a huge amount of stuff that just comes automatically through those large language models that are foundational to that technology. So you've got huge scope to get very disruptive there in terms of disrupting the time and effort that you spend on things. So fundamentally, yeah, it's going to be a long learning journey, or relearning and learning and lifelong learning. But the potential of the platform and the tools is huge.
Look, I think just echoing very much what I heard very recently in our summit, Inner Circle Summit, Microsoft has had various aspects of AI infused into its tech quite strategically for many years. And so I guess, don't be under any illusion. The fact is that this is actually reasonably mature tech, and it also has got thousands and thousands of customer stories all ready to tell of use cases that are tried and true and proven. So, if you're looking at embarking upon some of this newer area of technology, do a little bit of due diligence to ensure that it's not something that's just landed. For example, that it actually has got some real tangible outcomes and, I guess it's tried and true. You don't want to be bleeding edge. But secondly, I just really do want to emphasize the importance of making your discovery process happen now. Please don't sit back and wait a year for your competitors to mature and to be able to smash out things at, a fraction of the cost of you when you're talking cost to serve, when you're talking personalized marketing campaigns. Literally we've seen it in action where you can tell the Copilot of what you want to achieve. I want to sell more of these things. And it actually starts to guide you on how to market that item and where it might resonate most. The truth is, if you're not doing it now, your competitors are. And this is a time where you can either be left behind and be very uncompetitive very quickly, or you can get ahead of the curve. And I would say, if I was a business owner, I'd certainly want to be the latter.
Yeah, I think echoing what Kristy's just said, and referring back to what Kristy was also saying about the way Fusion 5 is approaching this from an organizational learning perspective, I'm always reminded of the Israeli philosophers, Yuval Noah Harari, his statement that the number one job skill of the 21st century will be the ability to continually reinvent and relearn as jobs become obsolete. And I think this means that there's not only it's critically important that organizations do start to at least form a plan and get started on helping employees learn, because the market is pretty tight for skilled people, but people will also be feeling and recognizing that, hey, careers will turn over more quickly, and it will be very important to learn this stuff. So if there's not a real emphasis on learning and training and a lifelong learning culture so that people can get upskilled and feel good about where they're heading, I think that creates organizational risk as well. That people might go to organizations that are willing to invest in training them and at least helping them navigate this path. So there's huge potential in the tools for organizations to achieve more in how they're interacting with customers and staff. But there's also, there's a need for lifelong learning and investment in that.